Hello and welcome to episode 37 of the Money Talks. And today we are not inviting any guests for this episode simply because I think uh, the country is going through a very tumultuous time. And I know a lot of founders, both within and outside my network, have been reaching out to me asking for advice on how to maintain business, how to maintain growth, in some cases, even how to survive in this very difficult period. It is there is a lot of loss of life that is going on around us, and there's been it's I have had people that I know in business and I know personally that are no longer going to be people that I can reach out to, and therefore I think the time, while we have certain responsibilities to the country, to our families. We also have responsibility to our employees. And so many of you who are founders out there, many of you who are running businesses out there who are looking for a plan of what needs to get done. This is why this episode was scheduled. A lot of people, like I said, have reached out. They've been asking questions, and I thought this would be a good time to give a chance to for me to also express. I think how uh, we're advising our companies, we're advising our founders on maintaining business continuity. And so, if you have any questions, just feel free. There's a comment section right there. You can ask your questions, and I'll take them up one by one. I've also got some questions that have already come in from people, and I will start answering them one by one. Um, so, like I said, the objective of this episode is not about fundraising. It's about business continuity. It's about dealing with COVID for your business. What are the strategies? What are the opportunities? What are the ways to tide over what is definitely a very difficult crisis that is going on? So, like I said, I'll take questions. I think we'll get started right away. I think the first question, I think, and almost everybody would be interested in this, is what is the business outlook for the next 3 to 12 months? Jashan, thank you for that question. So, simply put, many of the companies that were in the offline business that have completely been disrupted. I think you're pretty much looking at a washed out quarter, and therefore I think until June at least you should be expecting almost no movement, very little chances of doing business. In fact, today we had news that even the the main trains like the Rajdhani and the Torontos in India are going to be won't be flying anymore from, I think, from as of Sunday. And I think there's also going to lead to further disruption of travel, so further disruption in movement of goods. Uh, so if I was budgeting, especially if you're an offline business, we've asked most of our offline businesses to stop budgeting for the year and start budgeting again month on month, just like we did last year when we had a 21-point action plan for our founders. And yeah, we're back at that right away, right once again. So Sumit, I see a question that's been asked, but unfortunately, your question is about fundraising and investor interest. It doesn't really, you know, talk about business continuity. So, would request you to maybe talk more about how about the current situation versus whether investors would be interested. I think there are many platforms where you can reach out to me for that. One of them being www.showmethabani.com/AMA. It's a great place where you could ask me that question. I'll definitely take it up and look forward to answering it. I think I'll take some of the questions that have come prior to the episode. So, how should entrepreneurs curtail cost without downsizing? I think that's another very relevant question that has been asked prior to the episode. Like I said, so there are several ways. I think even, and some of them are also strategies that were deployed last year. What I would definitely look at doing is that, if you look at cutting as much discretionary spending as possible, right? So any marketing costs, anything where you currently, so if you're an offline business, or if you're in a business where you're going to start, you know you're spending money to acquire while the business out there is not working, that doesn't make sense to keep your marketing expenses going, right? That's a great way to start cutting expenses. If you have an office space, and you're not utilizing it, cutting, renegotiating the rents. For example, in our offices, we've shut down the internet services, we've suspended all telephone lines, we've moved everything to Exotel online so that we don't have those expenses anymore. And these little things, they start adding up. If you think about 3 4 months worth of internet expenses for any decent sized business, could add up to be could even add up to be a few 40 50,000 rupees. It could probably be even bigger than that. Like we have a lease line, so it can work out to almost a lakh or so per quarter. So every single penny that I can save and I should save, should find a way to save that. Try. Start at the smallest places, and then move on your way up, and that would probably be the best way to start cutting expenses. In terms, let's see, I'll take Jyotishna's. What is the most common mistake you've seen founders making during this time? I think, unfortunately, these are times you can't really blame founders for making mistakes. These are not these nothing in any book or nothing in any business course has ever taken or given us the ability to deal with situations like the ones we faced 2 years in a row. But the most common mistake is to act slowly, right? As a startup, the biggest benefit you have on your side, the biggest benefit founders have on their side is that they can act very, very quickly, right? You have a small company, a small company in terms of the number of people, compared to some of the larger like the Tatas and things like that, which are much bigger vehicles to make movement. But you can make very quick decisions. You can make very nimble decisions, and founders that do not take this opportunity to what I would call take advantage of the fact that they are startups, those are the ones that are really missing out, right? And those are the ones that those are the ones that I would imagine would get swept away and would be too late, right? Some of the founders that did not act in time last year, and then did not again act in time when the market turned, lost out on both sides, right? So it's the most common mistake is to act slowly, to keep thinking that things are going to be okay, to not have the ability to pivot, and all of those things affect your survivability in the long run. I'll take Mahip's question next. Let's see. What do you think about international outbound and inbound tourism in India? Should India work towards a vaccine passport? I think I don't know if we are the right country today, Mahip, for that kind of tourism to come into the country. I think we're already struggling to provide vaccines to the people that are in the country. But I think in the long run, maybe we could have certain outposts where people could come and get the vaccine. However, that being said, that would probably mean countries that are probably below us in terms of development, and again would probably lead to more bigger humanitarian crisis for us to deal with. So as of now, I don't think it is something the government will be looking at. I don't think it's a really something that many of these countries would be accepting of. But maybe in the longer term, in the once we have a much more stable understanding of how this virus spreads, maybe that could be a great time to rethink about this. Farhan, Farhan's question is: do you think early stage deal making will take a hit due to the current situation? Should founders look to hold off immediate fundraising aspirations? Um, no, I don't think so. I think most of us investors have been through this cycle last year. We've seen how this thing plays out. Thankfully, India, while going through its second wave, there are countries and there are regions in the world that are actually going through their third, fourth waves of this virus, and you've seen how they've recovered. So the main thing that we're looking for in businesses that are coming to us is how those businesses are responding to the current and ever changing business you know scenario out there, and that is what we are really testing for. I think at least I'm looking for that. I'm asking questions to figure out if things turn even further sour. What are the plan B, plan C's? How is the business pivoted during this time? I think those are the kind of real insights I want to see. I want to see the tenacity of these founders. I want to see uh, you know uh, how they would respond right? Because while I think uh, the expectation is that 50% of India's population should be vaccinated by the end of this year. There could be another mutation. Hong Kong's already talking about another bout of this virus. So there's a lot of different things happening, and we want to see founders who are nimble, who are studying the market very closely, and want to see that they are, willing and quick to respond to any situation. Let's see. I will take. Great question, Dr. Deep Lodhari. Due to COVID in FMCG and FMCG FB businesses, we are having a good chunk of money go to sales staff on the ground. Due to the lockdown, we have seen sales impacted. Should downsizing be considered? It's always a very difficult question, Deep, simply because this sometimes feels like the wrong time to be talking about downsizing and talking about letting people go, especially people that have been there and been loyal to you for the long term. And this is not probably the right time to be letting them go. But again, I said this last year. I say this again, is that it's very important for you to see whether before you do charity, uh, you know, uh, is do you have the cash reserves to make that happen? Right? If your business is going to go under, and that means you will, even other people whose families are being fed through your business are also now going to be, without a source of income. Then you have to weigh, which one of those two evils are you willing to take on? It's a very unpopular thing to say in today's day and age, but you have to understand that sometimes, like, some of our companies could be running 100, 200 people, and you might want to save every single one of them, but sometimes you have to see whether, if you don't have the capital, if you don't have any way to save the save your save have enough capital to save everybody, at least save the ones you can, right? And you again, I'm not advocating, and it's a very difficult, like I said, it's a very difficult answer to give. But I'm not advocating that just fire people for the heck of it. But I am saying that if you can keep them on, if you can repurpose them, if you can give them other tasks, do that. Try to find ways to make them more productive for you. But if it really comes down to the fact that, listen, you've got 3 months of runway left, and if you don't cut costs today, the business is going to go under, and everybody is going to be without a job, and then you have to weigh which one of those two evils are you willing to live with. Um, let's see, Nihal. I'm sorry, I only read the first part of your question. The second part, again, to raise new funds. Again, not that's not the topic of conversation today. But I would say, is edtech saturated? Yes and no. I think certain parts of edtech definitely feel saturated, but again, with this new lockdowns coming in, the expectation being that at least most of this, or a majority of this school year, is going to be online. I think there is opportunities for even a deeper penetration. There is going to be chances now, I think, and I see the government probably moving towards holding examinations online, because they can't happen in person right now, and I don't know how long this is going to go on. So there could be somewhat new stuff coming in. We've made a couple of edtech investments recently. Another one that we'll probably announce shortly, and it's definitely a time to look into, to see whether you can do something different, right? If you're doing the same thing what Byju's is doing, or what Unacademy is doing, or the different kind of masterclass type startups are doing, that's saturated, right? But there's still a lot of opportunity available, where you could find a specific niche that you could go out and look at capitalizing on. And there's definitely a big space, because I think the next year is again going to be a year where students are studying online, and there's a lot of opportunity there, because they're getting much more comfortable doing that. Let's see. Ashutosh will take your question next. So your question is, what's your view on senior care startups? Um, India obviously is going to have one of the largest senior care you know, populations in the world, and I think we already are at home to, I think, the third largest population of people over 100 years of age. Is it third or fourth? I'm not really sure, but it's one of those two numbers. So Now the real question comes in is that who's going to pay, right? And that's what always has been my question, at least in India, because we unfortunately many of the senior care people needing senior care that need assistance are people that are probably don't have enough money to pay for it. So then, so it really beggars the question is uh, how do you make that a positive revenue model? And that's going to be difficult. I'm not really sure. I haven't done enough research on that, but I would say that there's probably a small population of people that can actually afford to pay. So if that is not big enough, then you've got a business model with a lot of people, but with not a lot of propensity to pay. And I've seen models where people have tried to reduce the level of services, but then you're not really doing senior care living. So you got to again choose, right, which one you want to go for. And a lot of people are really asking me about business models. But again, if anybody has questions that they want to get deeper into any business related issues that you have, would be happy to answer them. A few more questions I'll take after the one I've taken from Tejas. What's your take on the retail trading and investing space? Great as always. I think the Indian market continues to do well. There's a lot of liquidity flowing around, a lot of money coming to India. And giving you a bit of maybe a precursor, but you're going to hear an investment that we're going to do very shortly. You're going to hear about it, and which is in the space, a couple of them actually. And I just think that it's definitely something very interesting. People again are at home. A lot of people are out there trading, and if the current market conditions persist for a little longer, you could see a lot more people joining this the recent surge in the market, and could lead to some very interesting results. I don't think we're yet in the Wall Street bets kind of phase in India, but definitely a larger participation is expected in the market. Um, so let's take one of the questions that I had prior to. Um, if we have to take salary cuts, right? What is the way that you would recommend the salary cuts should be? So yeah, I think it's definitely a difficult situation when you have to take a salary cut, and you must tell your team that people have to take less than what they were getting earlier. Uh, but the way at least the way I have seen it is that you always start from the top and give the deepest cut to the people at the top and the lowest cut to the people at the bottom. Because usually the salary of the executive is probably at least 10 to 12 times the salary of the lowest paid employee. So if you cut the top salary by 20%, right, it is probably equal to the salary of more than the salary of the person at the bottom. So I would probably grade it to saying the person at the top takes the largest salary cut, the person at the bottom takes the least one. One very interesting thing one of our startups did last year, and this was pretty amazing, is that while they gave everybody a salary cut, they decided to compensate everybody for their salary cut with ESOPs. So if you were at a salary of 5 lakhs and salary was now 3 lakhs, for example, so for the time your salary was cut, that to whatever amount you were owed was then given to you as an ESOP. And they, in fact, I think most of those individuals have not opted to take the normal salary and continue to take more ESOPs in the company because the company is doing that well. So it's a pretty neat strategy, and would definitely segregate your the people that really believe in your company versus the people that don't. Because if they really believe in it and they think the company has great prospects, then getting equity at par value for the value of equity that they for the salary they've given up could lead to a much better payday in the future, especially if the company pulls through and does well. And anybody who's willing to take that risk with you, I think you should reward them. If I was in your place, I would probably give them 50% extra equity. Right? So if somebody's taken a salary cut of 3 lakhs, then I would say, okay, here's 4 lakhs or 5 lakhs of equity in return because they've given up liquidity. They've essentially invested in your company, if you think about it, right? Because the money was supposed to pay out has not been paid out. So that money is saved. Technically, it is as good as money being invested. It's a great way to reward those people is to give them some great equity positions in your company. Uh, what are the things that worked for you during this time? I'm guessing this time last year is what you're saying. And what are the things that did not work? Uh, As an investor, I think, or as a founder, I would say last year was difficult because we were supposed to be closing our fund at the time, and we had some budgets made, and everything went haywire because everything just shut for 6 months. Right? There was no way to get new investors on board, and we could not get our budgets together. So I think what I did was I took a salary cut. I did not take salary. I think for 3 months, and to keep the company afloat. Everybody else, I just ensured that everybody else got paid. Once we started to perform again, and we got we're now almost done with our final close. Uh, the budgets worked themselves out. The portfolio company rebounded really well, and then obviously I whatever my salary errors were paid out, and I was fine. What did not work out? Honestly, I think last year somehow everything just seemed to work out at the end of the year, at the end of it, right? I think we were very quick, and our founders were really they were very quick and nimble on their feet. I took I think 8 companies into the lockdown with me last year, and we walked out with all 8. And many of those 8 companies have now become fantastically run companies, and they've become much bigger and leaner and quicker and fitter than they were prior to the lockdown. And uh, one of them is just, I mean, a couple of them are raising their Series A, and that would have probably been another 18 months away. But just the lockdown, I think, just it was just the right kind of pressure, right kind of heat to convert what was coal into a diamond, and I think that's really worked out really well in the long run. Ranjan Singh asked, "What about the fashion industry?" Uh, it's doing well. I mean, I don't know if there's been a lot of issues. I just ordered some stuff recently off of Amazon. Obviously, the whole concept of going out and meeting people and going out and choosing what I buy is not happening. But definitely, I think people there's a lot more discretionary income available with the middle class because they haven't had a vacation in 2 years. Uh, some people that got out for a few months. Now they're back home. Many of the people are not haven't gone out and eaten, so a lot of money got saved. If you really look at the middle class out there, a lot of their money got saved simply because well, they had a job. The avenues of expenditure, going to the movies, going for vacations, all of that has been taken away. Right? So there's some more spending power, I would say, in this middle or middle upper class, as you would call it. And many of these guys will probably be open to trying something on the D2C front. I think that's gonna be a very interesting thing to look into over the next I think 18 to 24 months. The impact we'll have to study, but there's definitely an opportunity over there. Let's see if we've got. I'll take some of the questions from prior to. Um, Good one. What are the actions that can be taken to meet the needs of the stakeholders and address any doubts or concerns? Um, the best way to convert any bad news is directly, right? Whether it is when I say, and I think when the word stakeholder was used, I'm guessing that what we're talking about is everybody from your employee to your customers to your investors to even your partners and maybe even your families, right? How do you convey what's happening to them? I think just give it to them directly. I think if you're going to have customers who are not going to get their orders on time, might as well tell them right now what the issues are. Let's not wait till D-Day, and when they need the input or whatever product or service you promised them and they're not going to get it. Let's not wait till the last day. I tell them upfront that it's not going to happen, and how are you fixing the situation? If it's going to be employees who are not going to get their salaries on time, or they're going to have to wait till things improve, tell them directly. Right. The best way to convey it is to pull it off like a band-aid. Right. It will pain for a second, but at least they'll appreciate that you were direct with them. Same thing with your investors. Right. I mean, if things are going bad, they're going bad. Go ahead and tell them. There's no need for you to have a rara session with them while things are really falling apart internally. So better just be direct, be candid, and they'll really appreciate it, right, in the long run. Let's see. Any tips or actions that can be taken to address the I think that's the one that I answered. Uh, let's see. If there's any other questions. Um, I think one another question that came in: what actions can be taken at an individual level to reduce the impact on the business? Um, Several things that I mean, especially if you're a founder, I think some of the things that I talked about earlier about cutting any discretionary expenses, cutting down even the smallest expenses possible. If you've hired recently, and the person you've hired is no longer, is probably in a redundant position, probably furloughing them for a bit, or just paying them a stipend just until things turn around. Especially if you're in a tough cash situation, uh, giving being open and upfront about where the situation is, where things are with your customers, with your other stakeholders. I think this is the time for you to come out and just be open and communicative, than trying to hide things. I think that's what this entire time is about. So that's what I would recommend that you do. Um, let's see. If there's any further questions, guys, happy to answer them. Otherwise, like I said, it wasn't supposed to be a very long session, so we'll look at ending it in the next 5 or 6 minutes. Any questions about business continuity? Any questions about how to survive this lockdown storm that we're about to go through or are going through at this point? I'll even remind you once again that the most important thing to do is to survive, right? That's one thing that you have to look at doing, especially if your business is one of those that is getting hit because of the lockdowns. Survival is the most important mantra. Conserve as much cash as possible, right? Instead of try to reduce the burn of your business as much as possible. Every single penny you save right now is the penny that you can utilize when the business turns around. It really needs that capital to grow again. So try to save every single. If you can find a a 1 rupee coin somewhere, just keep it in the bank account and keep it safe, because this is going to tide over. I've been through the 2008 crisis. I've been through the 2012 crisis, 15 crisis, the one that we had last year. So I've been through this cycle 4 or 5 times. I've seen my parents go through it. I've seen my partners go through it. I've seen multiple business cycles. It always there's always a down, then there is an up. But what I've seen is that if you haven't conserved energy, if you haven't conserved enough cash, when that upcycle does come in, you don't have any capital to capitalize on it, and then you've lost out twice, right? You've lost out obviously when the market was turning south, and you've again lost out when the market turned around. So I'll give it a couple of minutes. If anybody, again, like I said, has any questions, happy to answer them in the next couple of minutes. Otherwise, we will take it. We'll take it for next week. Let me just check if there's any questions. Yeah, there's one question. If I recently hired somebody, should I let should I let them go? Yeah, again, it's questions that you don't want to need to answer. But if again, it depends upon the situation you're in. If you feel you've hired somebody, you were expecting a customer or some business to come in, that's not happening, or you found yourself in a difficult situation, you have to make certain calls. But you also must remember that person probably left their job somewhere to get here, and you can't really leave them in the lurch. um, so see if you can repurpose them somewhere. See if you can you know uh, at least find a way to keep them around as long as you can. But if it really comes down to the fact of survival, then that's when you must make a hard decision, and don't take it lightly. I think, because last thing you want is to let somebody go in such a difficult time, and then having to having that guilt over your head. So I mean, don't take it lightly. But if you absolutely must, and if it is a fact, whether you drown together or you save everybody else, uh, then you know how to make that choice. Ashul, that's a good question. What are the industry verticals you currently are focusing on in the coming 7 months with respect to fund allocation? I well, I'm looking very closely at deploying more into direct to consumer. I think the distribution ecosystem that was just getting starting to revive on the offline bit started to fall away again. So I think definitely looking at businesses that have a direct to consumer focus. I think there's going to be a lot of action over there, especially that is not offline, right? If it's something that is selling direct online to customer, definitely very interesting to look at. I think fintech, that's the second one. That in the last cycle, fintech was largely out of it, right? Primarily ed tech and health tech that took over, and maybe a little bit of B2B SaaS. But in this cycle, I really think that fintech is going to be the one that's going to really perform, and you're going to see, because this is the year when I think most companies are going to start looking at consumer credit. Most of the investors are going to start investing more into consumer credit, and should be a very interesting year to see. Like we've already seen credit becoming unicorn. You're going to see some more coming through. It's a very interesting year to keep a track of that. Um, I think there's a question being asked twice, which is how does one achieve work-life balance with the team? Um, Good question, Vidisha. And sometimes it feels like you're working much more harder than we used to, simply because you're no longer doing a commute back and forth. Uh, but it's important also not to forget that to have those personal conversations, to be personally connected, to give a chance for some of these people that are on your team that are probably used to coming to office. They may be from a different city altogether, and therefore living in a very small accommodation without any family. They have an avenue to vent out. They have an avenue to talk. Uh, you know, Last year we did a lot of fun and games that were run from the house. We did treasure hunt. We did different games. We had a movie. I don't know if we had a movie night, and we had a day where we all just grabbed it. I grabbed a glass of alcohol and just hung out for an hour or so. It was all pretty fun and games. It is still difficult, I think, just to miss the human touch. But try to reach out to your people, right? Try to reach out to them. Try to keep a close eye. This is a good time because it's also easy now for you to just have a quick check in with people. Maybe have a list and you make sure that you check in with everybody once in every 7 to 10 days. See how things are going. Maybe just having a chat that is non-business like, and ensuring that whatever is bothering them, they're aware that that you're there, you're available, and you know, eh, they should feel that they're connected to a greater whole, and that they're not there by themselves. I think that's what's important. What's my view on the film industry, Sriram? Good question. Good question. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very wide question. I definitely see that. I don't know how movie going is going to be. I have an investment in a company called Jadus from the fund, and they're making these mini theaters. I think that would be the future. I think these large theaters, whether PVRs and Inoxes of the world will can afford to pay so much rent and take on the risk of another pandemic happening. I mean, people are not going to forget this easily, right? Um, and I don't know how much social distancing you can do with such expensive real estate. So to me, I think small mini theaters, scattered around the length and breadth of India, makes a lot of sense. People getting movies streamed directly to their house makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of these actors, a lot of these even your celebrities, right? That may not be actors as well. They've definitely seen a huge loss in revenue because a lot of these openings are not happening. A lot of these places where they went and performed and they made additional income, all of that is not happening. Many of them are also looking to augment incomes, and this could be a great time for building a platform that allows some of these people to be accessible for them to make some additional capital. A lot of these platforms where you can, where they pay celebrities for birthday wishes. I think you might see some more stuff happening there. Uh, More because the supply side is available, and it's going to take some time before this entire disruption is taken care of. So your A-listers are okay, maybe even your B-listers are okay. When you start moving out of that ecosystem, all your character artists, all the people that are celebrities but not really A-listers or B-listers, those could really be in some bit of financial trouble if they don't find alternative sources of income. And I think over there you might see some very interesting stuff happening, and their supply is available. Um, Let's take another question. This is from Prajnayasis Biswal. I think you go by PB. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. What is your take on esports and gaming market of India? Man, I think this current new lockdown probably just gave a second wind to the entire gaming space in India. I think I was just reading yesterday about Zynga, which announced its quarterly results, and the fact that in the US and Europe, which is their primary markets, even though people have started going back to the office, they had not seen a drop off in terms of user engagement, which was very interesting. So people were still playing those games. People were still on their platform, and in fact, they made a pretty large acquisition yesterday, a quarter billion dollar acquisition, and I think some very interesting stuff to think about that people are getting hooked on. I know for a fact, I think all my friends on this Ludo game, and it's been 18 or 12 or 13 months now, and they're still playing Ludo every day. And I don't know how they play it. But they're playing. There's games, there's contests, there's all this stuff going on. So it's definitely addictive, and I'm sure the Mr. Agarwal who owns Ludo is laughing his way to the bank at this point. But so there is some permanent behavioral change happening. So it could be very interesting to see if there was some interesting very game that could be that could hook a user's attention, that could provide enough innovation that people want to keep playing it day in and day out. It could lead to some very interesting outcomes. So yeah, definitely esports and gaming has a lot of potential in India. I think some of those contests that some of these platforms are looking at doing contests in India could all be virtual now. But something definitely very interesting. I think it's a new industry uh, that is opening up. For something like travel tech, which is completely frozen because of the pandemic, do you think one should approach investors or keep it for a later date when things hopefully normalizes? Yeah, I think so, Darshan. Again, this wasn't a question really about fundraising, but more about approaching investors and approaching it from that angle. Um, See, it's not the greatest time to be talking about travel tech uh, to investors simply because we don't know. We don't know when this thing is going to turn around. We don't know how this thing is going to how we're going to get out of this, and, and how things are going to be once things are reopened. Because I think the whole concept of normal and what is normal business is going to go through a paradigm shift once things hopefully normalize. Um, so to me, I would say that if you do not really need the capital, if you're not really in the market and you can survive, don't go out there. Right? Chances are you're gonna have to work 10 times as harder as any time in the history of travel tech to be raising capital, and also you lose the ability to be fresh with some of these investors. Right? If something comes to an investor and it's been out there for a long time, you start losing luster with, with the investor as it is. So even though you might be doing well, just because they've seen the fundraise for open for way too long, can lead to some negative aspects for you. So again, I would if you can avoid it, avoid it. If you can't avoid it, and you have to absolutely and you must raise money or go under, listen, man. It's at that point you gotta do what you gotta do. Right? Go out there, raise money. Don't worry about the valuation. Focus on survival. Eventually, Mark Cuban's dialogue is the one that I always refer back to. That you must decide whether you want 10% of a watermelon or 80% of a grape. And if you once you answer that question, you pretty much have you know what you need to do. Great questions. Thank you so much, guys, for once again putting up these questions. I'll take maybe a couple more minutes. So, if someone wants to ask questions about business continuity during COVID times, how to deal with the COVID's impact on your business, a couple of minutes to ask any questions. Otherwise, I'll take your leave and we'll be back next week. We've got some amazing guests coming in, but I thought this was a great opportunity. A lot of founders asking questions, that have been affected by the new rolling lockdowns. They've been asking questions. There's been some concern about what to do with the business, and I thought this would be a great opportunity for founders to ask those kind of questions. I'll take this question. Oh, this is Varun. Hi, Varun. How to work with a team that is not remote friendly? Unfortunately, if they're not remote friendly, Varun, the best way now is to really put remote friendly down their throat, because if they have to survive, if we all have to survive, if we all have to work through this crisis, people are going to have to become comfortable working online, working remotely, working, and if they can't, find somebody else who will, because this is not the time for people to be obstinate. This is not the time for people to, for anyone, right? Whether it is, even my own father is now working from home, and trading stocks from home, and he's been trading stocks at his office for the last 40 years, right? So even he's had to adapt. He's trading through the internet and stuff like that, which he hasn't done in the past. So if he can adapt, you're not a tree, right? You can move. And so people are not willing to move, then you can't bet your business on someone who does not want to move in a time of crisis, right? So no one's a tree. This is the time to be nimble. This is the time to be accepting of the change that is coming our way, and might as well make that edit. If they're not willing to do it, shove it down their throat. And even then, if they're not willing to do it, then find somebody else who will. Find somebody else who will adapt to the situation. If they can't, then it becomes very difficult to run a business when when the see. It's not like your choice that you're trying to you're trying to work remotely, right? This is something that has been bestowed upon you because of what the situation is outside, and you're trying to do business, and if people are not willing to, if your team, people of your team are not willing to accept that, then you might as well um, think about who it is that you're really trying to save, right? Uh, let's see. Milap Singh Jadeja, you ask, hi, your take on the restaurant industry as in dine-ins, how do they pivot? Is there enough space for ghost kitchens in tier 2 and tier 3 cities? Lots of questions there, Milap, but I mean, you have to pivot, right? I mean, I think, and this is going to be very interesting once things start reopening again, is that are people going to return back to restaurants, right? And I think people were just getting comfortable when we started having these lockdowns again. And just looking at the way things have gone around the world, where now there are certain parts of the world that are going through one more round, right, and one more round of lockdowns besides India. So it's a very interesting one to figure out. So my take would be that restaurants will probably want to move out of expensive retail locations and have a lot of their business also happening from home, and that's probably a pivot that is forced upon you. You might as well accept it. uh, but this could also be a great time for some of the restaurants that have, or restaurant chains that have some capital to lock in some very interesting rents, right? If you can, at this moment, you could probably get into places like where earlier maybe outside your reach, but you could get into some very interesting rental contracts. I've got a few friends in the commercial real estate industry, and they've been telling me that there's some very interesting deals that are happening, very interesting structures that are taking place, and you could probably go out there and renegotiate rent, or you could find a new location and even negotiate maybe a few months where you don't pay rent till things are open and normal, or even do some sort of a revenue share model with the landlord, because they all know that if things persist the way they are, they could be looking at a significant loss of revenue even after things open up, right? And so they're very open now to making some interesting deals. So if you're in the restaurant industry and you have to be front facing for some reason, it while while the current business might require you to obviously be in a cloud kitchen format, you could still make some very interesting deals and be prepared for when things open up. Could be something to look into for you. Uh, Sriram, I honestly, because of this wave, we are not sure when this thing would would reopen. Um, but I'm expecting that probably by mid June, I can give you an update, and I will definitely make sure that this update is shared with everyone. So I'm also very excited, looking forward to this show. I think India needed its own version of a Shark Tank, and this was a very good format. Unfortunately, because of the situation that has been on the ground, and as you can see, even the IPL had to be shut down because of, despite them having a massive budget and everything that was there at their disposal. So instead of taking a risk with people's lives, instead of taking a risk with everyone that had to be a part of the show, I think they postponed it. Hopefully by mid June, we should be in some level of production. People will always return to restaurants. Yeah, people might, but the question is it going to be as busy as it used to be? I think that's what my real big question is. And how many of the existing ones will survive? I think the ones that were very quick at adapting, many of the restaurants in my area where our offices are, they've given up the entire real estate. They just say we can't afford the rent, might as well just shut it down. And I'm sure that once things open up and things stabilize, and once they've had a chance to look at the market again, they'll probably come back in a new form, in a new avatar. But as of now, many of them have just said, you know what, it's just better to be dormant. It's just better to go into a deep freeze for now until things stabilize, until things are conducive for us to come back. And many of them have actually moved from a uh, a physical format to a completely cloud kitchen format. So we continue to enjoy some of the stuff that we love to eat at the office, but now it just gets delivered at home. But it's something that we'll have to wait and watch. Definitely, I would. I think Ashutosh has a question on what do you think about the future of smart contracts? Yeah, I mean we've had. I mean, I think blockchain is what you're really talking about. We're getting there, slowly but steadily, right? I think we're getting there. While we not have we might not be using direct blockchain in a very direct or the traditionalist or the purest form of the word, but we have been utilizing certain ways of smart contracts even today. Uh, may not be as complicated or as advanced as you might like it to be, but there is some version of that happening today. And uh, hopefully, the government and because of the way things are working right now, there is going to be some push to make to legal to to have a deeper penetration of the blockchain in our lives. Uh, we'll have to wait and watch. I think it's too early to talk about it right now, but I think maybe in about 3 to 6 months, once the government has got some handle on this virus, and then they've got some time to start rethinking about the way business is getting done, you'll see some of this stuff probably becoming mainstream for us. All right, guys. I think we've had a great session. I had allocated maybe 30. I thought maybe we would have 30 minutes worth of questions, but we've had almost 50 minutes in, and it seems the questions are still flowing in. I think take a last couple of few. So if you've got some questions, again, just put it down in the comment section. What do I think about urban farming? Hey, I have good things to say. I'm yet not sure that urban farming was very popular more in the West, uh, where their cities are not as polluted as the ones that we have in our cities. So I'm not really sure whether urban farming really works when you think about Mumbai, Delhi, where there's a lot of pollution out there. We have an investment in a company called Farmers FZ, which is very interesting because they're tying up directly with farmers like a farm to fork model. I think that is probably more suitable for the kind of cities we live in. Uh, Rishikesh, many of us don't have large enough accommodations in the major cities. We don't have real estate is extremely expensive in Bombay, so unless I'm an Ambani or something, I may not have enough space to be growing a vertical or any kind of garden inside my house. So for me, maybe a farm to fork model works much better. But maybe in some of the tier two, tier three towns, the real estate is not as expensive. You could probably see that, but I don't see that really in the major cities. I think major cities is farm to fork. That's the way. Uh, I know someone's asking questions. Dheeraj, you're asking questions about fundraising. Trust me, this is not the platform. Best way to just if you want to go, looking for that, just ask me questions on AMA. Happy to answer that over there. The AMA link, which is www.showmethemoney.com/AMA. Ashu, I'll answer this question. Interesting. Have our expectations changed? No. I mean, again, I'm talking about myself probably, but I am way more optimistic about this, the way Indian founders will recover from uh, this lockdown than I was last time. Right? I think last time that was our first experience in almost 2 decades or 3 decades before we had seen a lockdown. Many of us had not seen a lockdown in our entire lives. Maybe last time I was a lot more concerned. Maybe there was a bit of fear when I looked at the lockdown. Not this time. I think this time Indian founders have been very tenacious. I mean, many of us have. I'm just seeing how quickly they've pivoted, how quickly they've caught on to new business trends, and we've been extremely fortunate to have such founders in our portfolio and see such founders, even the ones that are not in my portfolio. And they pivoted very quickly. They picked up, where the lacunas are going to be, and they've been able to pivot from whatever business they were doing to new stuff. So I'm not. I'm pretty positive. I think over the next, we're going to be pretty aggressive with our investing. We're looking at keeping a pace of almost one investment every 3 weeks for the next 12 months. So that would put us at about 15 investments for the year. Uh, 15 to 17 for the year. And I think looking at our pipeline, looking at the way things are, we're going to continue with that at least for the next 8 to 10 weeks. Sorry, at least the next 10 to 15 weeks, and then maybe just take a breather and see if we need to relook at our strategy. But as of now, I'm very positive and very aggressively looking for deals to do at this point. Um, Here, quick. I'll just ask my team if you guys could just share the link for AMA. In fact, Dheeraj, I'll just put it over here for you in the comment section. Actually, I can't, can somebody from the team just send the link on LinkedIn to Dheeraj, because he's asking a question that needs to go on AMA. All right, guys. I think we've had a great session tonight, and thank you so much for all the questions. I know a lot of you guys sent your questions prior to, and a lot of people asking questions during the episode, and I'm really, really thankful that I could be of any help. Again, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. There is a link which is www.showmethemani, which is showmedamani.com/AMA. That's the link where you can ask me a question, and my team and we try to get back to you here. I think it's AMA, not ask me anything. You guys could please correct that. It's showmethemani.com/AMA, and we will be happy to answer that for you. Great. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody. We'll see you next week. We've got a great guest coming up. So stay tuned next week, once again, 9 p.m. Good night. And please stay safe, stay socially distant, and wear a mask. Keep it up. Thanks.